Okay, let's dive right in. We're all building this digital version of ourselves every single day. But what happens when that digital you becomes the only you that matters? Today, we're going to take a hard look at the global push for digital ID and the very real dangers hiding just beneath the surface. So let's start with a number, a huge one, 1.1 billion. That's how many people around the globe, according to a recent USAID report, are living without any kind of official legal identity. And the consequence of that is just devastating. As the report says, they're left invisible, discounted, and left behind. Think about that. Without an ID, you're locked out of society. No bank account, no access to healthcare, no right to vote. You basically don't exist in the eyes of the state. Now, to solve this massive problem, governments and huge global institutions are rolling out what they claim is the perfect high-tech solution, a single universal digital ID for every person on the planet. The goal, they say, is to bring everyone into the fold, to unlock all that human potential. But here's the big question we have to ask. What if this so-called cure, this technological silver bullet, ends up creating a whole world of new and maybe even more dangerous problems? Let's get into it. To really get this, we've got to look at India's Aadhaar program. It's the biggest biometric ID system on the planet, and it's being held up as the global model, the poster child for these massive state-run big ID projects. And look, the promises made for Aadhaar were just enormous. They were going to enroll over 1 billion people, clean up corruption at welfare by getting rid of all the ghost recipients, make digital transactions smooth and secure, and, most importantly, finally give an identity to the invisible. But the reality, it was tragic. So different. This quote really cuts to the bone. Instead of fixing fraud, the system's glitches meant real people were cut off from their food rations. The result was multiple starvation deaths. So what on earth went so wrong? And that brings us to the first huge danger. These systems can actually end up excluding the very people they're supposed to help. Let's just look at the numbers. In India, over 1 million children, 1 million, were denied a spot in school because of problems with their Aadhaar registration. And it gets worse. One study found that somewhere between 1.5 to 2 million people lost access to their most essential benefits at some point. We're talking welfare payments, maternity support, even their own paychecks, all because of a glitch in the digital ID system. So who is it that gets hurt the most? Well, it's the people with limited digital skills, those without a smartphone or reliable internet. It's the homeless, refugees, and people with disabilities whose fingerprints or irises just can't be scanned properly. So instead of including them, the system just puts up new digital walls, pushing them even further to the edge. Okay, so exclusion is a massive problem, but that's only half the story. The other huge risk here? The unavoidable threats of mass surveillance. At the heart of all this is something called the unique ID. Now, you got to think of this thing like a master key. It's one number that can unlock and link together every single database that has information about you, your health records, your bank accounts, where you travel, who you talk to. So what does that mean? It means the government can build a complete file, a dossier, on every single citizen, tracking their movements, their behavior, their friends. It creates a system where everyone is permanently visible, which is a foundational step toward a totalitarian state. And this just flips a core democratic idea on its head. As the advocacy group Access Now puts it, you should have a right to privacy and anonymity. You should choose when the state sees you, not the other way around. Being watched all the time, well, that's not freedom. All right, so we've got exclusion, we've got surveillance, but there's a third massive risk we have to talk about. The idea that these systems are somehow perfectly secure. It's a myth. And this slide really breaks it down. We're sold this idea that biometrics are unique and totally secure, but the reality, they're based on probability, and they can be fooled. They tell us it's convenient. The reality, your fingerprint is irreversible. You can't change it if it's stolen, and it's stored in these giant databases that are basically giant targets for hackers. An objective? Well, the algorithms behind them are often total black boxes. And if you're wondering what foolable looks like, well, this is it. This image shows something called an adversarial perturbation. It's this layer of digital noise that's almost invisible to us, but it can completely confuse a facial recognition AI, making it see a totally different person or no person at all. It's wild. And this isn't just some lab experiment. These attacks are devastatingly effective. Look at this data. Amazon's facial recognition accuracy plummets from 82% all the way down to just 16% when it's under attack. And Microsoft's, it drops from 91% accurate to just 50%. These aren't just little bugs. These attacks can fundamentally break the entire system. And that leads us to the most chilling part, summed up perfectly by Justice Chandrachud of India's Supreme Court. You can change a stolen password, you cannot change your stolen fingerprint. Once a biometric database is hacked, that data is compromised forever. And while Aadhaar is a really powerful warning, you have to understand this isn't just one country's problem. This is a global trend, and it's expanding fast. Just take a look at this map. It shows how rapidly these biometric ID systems are spreading across Africa. And here's the scary part. In a lot of these countries, the technology is being rolled out way faster than the laws needed to protect people's data. That leaves millions and millions of people incredibly vulnerable. And who's pushing this? Well, powerful global institutions are. The World Bank, for instance, has this whole ID for Development initiative. They're actively funding and promoting these big ID projects all across the developing world, often without enough focus on the basic human rights safeguards that need to go along with them. So, at the end of the day, this is where we are. Digital IDs are being sold to us as this incredible tool for inclusion, a way to lift up the world's most vulnerable people. But looking at all the evidence, we have to ask ourselves a really hard question. Are we actually building a future that truly includes everyone? Or are we just building a digital cage that could, one day, trap us all?